Good morning, good morning. I'm grateful you made it through the weather of your own thoughts to be here. You need a sense of humor for this work, because today we are taking up something that, as a matter of fact, does not flatter the seeker. It isn't designed to. Oh, I know the seeker in us wants a soft pillow and a gold star, but this is a strange message because it begins by saying, I wonder who I'm kidding when I seek the kingdom and try to bring the old I along for the ride. I'm wondering if this world of ours, this inner world we are addressing, is some kind of a proving ground or testing ground, where the first test is honesty. We say we want God. We say we want the kingdom. And in the same breath, there is a private little rider in the contract. Let me keep myself, only better. Let me be safe, supplied, admired, only now with a sanctified glow. Do you see how cunning that is? We add God the way we add a scarf, an accessory to the outfit of me. We don't want the old self gone. We want it improved, polished, certified. Perhaps with a little plaque on the wall where the neighbors can see it. Now here is the sober paradox. The kingdom does not enter the ego. If it appears, it dissolves the one who would possess it. This is why so much seeking feels holy and goes nowhere. It is the separate I trying to be spiritual, which is like darkness attending a seminar on light. It can learn all the words about light. It can memorize the hymns to light. But the instant light appears, darkness is gone, and there is no one left to boast. That is the difficulty, and that is the grace. Oh, not at all. Not at all. Does this mean we despise personality, trample on human life, or become strange ascetics who let the body rot while the mind chants? We are not going to hate ourselves into heaven. We are going to learn what the old self is, the separate proprietor of life, and how gently, humorously, consistently, to stop protecting it. We will look right at the daily costumes of protection, the need to be right, the itch to be seen, the clutch for safety, the hand on the wheel of control. We'll see why these veil the kingdom, not because God withholds, but because oneness leaves no border for an owner. We will also discover why thinking about God is not the same as God realization. Thought, we will see, is a sea we rise above. Thinking won't make this so. And we will turn prayer upside down, away from bargaining and toward a single practice. Seek me only. That seeking is surrender, and surrender, when it finally clicks, is not loss. It is the end of a private me and the beginning of a presence living itself as us. That is the map. And for today, the first step is honesty about our wholly seeming self-protection. Let us take that step together. Now we come to the proving ground. I wonder if some of you can feel it the way I do. This place in consciousness where the ego whispers, all right, I will be spiritual if it guarantees my safety, my status, my relationships, my health, and my control. There it is. That is the policy. If I pray, if I study, if I show up and volunteer, if I keep the rules, then I expect to be insured against loss, humiliation, heartbreak, and the unknown. Is that what we really want? God? Or do we really want protection? Do we want truth? Or do we want reassurance for the personal sense of life? You see, the ego's contract is very polite. It signs with a fountain pen, and it attends every service. It learns the language of light with marvelous fluency. It nods at oneness, and then, in very small print, adds the writer, provided nothing actually dissolves me. You need a sense of humor to catch this, because it will put on your best Sunday voice and say, "I love the Lord," while inwardly measuring whether this love is improving my image, securing my position, repairing my marriage, or increasing my income. Now, there is nothing wrong with image, position, marriages, or income. Oh, not at all. Not at all. But can you feel the subtlety? The motive is management. The motive is outline. I will be spiritual, and in return, God will be my partner in outcomes. I'm wondering how many of our prayers, if we could hear them without the music, would sound like an adjuster's call to the insurance office. I've paid my premiums, my affirmations, my meditations, my donations, and now I have a claim. Please see that events break in my favor. How many hours of study are not really devotion, but fortification, building a bulwark of concepts that will keep uncertainty from crossing our lawn? How much service is not love, but bargaining, points on a scoreboard we hope God is watching? Do not take this as condemnation. Oh, not at all. This is the human condition in its innocence. This is why the teaching is liberation. It reveals the contract for what it is. Because that very policy, so carefully filed in our heart's drawer, blocks the kingdom. Why? Because the contract assumes two. It assumes a me and a God, negotiating terms. It assumes a separate owner of life who must be protected, and a deity who must be persuaded. The kingdom is oneness, and oneness has no clauses. Oneness leaves no private I to ensure, no separate will to manage outcomes. Here is the proving ground. Can we look at that small print without shame and simply say, "I see you"? Can we admit, with a hand on our own shoulder, that much of our seeking has been an attempt to domesticate God and stabilize the old self? If we can, then already the first hinge turns. Honesty weakens the glue. The need to ensure begins to loosen because something in us starts to taste a different kind of safety. Not the safety of control, but the safety of presence. And though we are not yet speaking of method, you can feel the direction. Away from bargaining and into trust. Away from outlining effects and toward the one who is the life of all effects. This is the test we pass, not by winning, but by surrendering the pen that keeps trying to sign on behalf of a self that is fading as the light appears. Now, before we can surrender a thing, we ought to know what it is. Old self is a phrase that can frighten people, and unnecessarily so. So first, what it is not. It is not your personality. It is not your sense of humor, your love of dogs, your taste for jazz or soup. It is not your capacity to plan your day, return phone calls, keep a budget, or change a tire. Oh, not at all. Not at all. It is not self-care. It is not healthy boundaries. If someone asks you to do what is unkind or unwise and you say no, please don't think you've resurrected the ego. That is intelligence in action. It is not moral responsibility. Paying your bills, showing up for your children, telling the truth, apologizing when you've missed the mark. These are not the old self. These are the fragrance of integrity. It is not the ability to function in the world. We are not going to make saints by turning capable people into incompetents. We are not called to be odd. We are called to be transparent. Then what is the old self? It is the private center, the claimant, the I that says, "This is my life. These are my results. These are my fears. These are my triumphs. And I must manage, control, and protect them." It is the owner of experience. It is the chooser who believes it chooses out of its own separate power. It is the sufferer that gathers all pain to a throne and calls it me. It is the controller forever adjusting dials and drafting contracts, even spiritual ones, to ensure itself. It is a position taken inside consciousness, a mental posture that points to an imagined center and says, mine. Not your hands, not your voice, not your calendar, the claimant behind them. This is the central light we must let in. Separation is the illusion. The personal I we have served as owner and manager is not a true identity. It is a thought about identity. It is a pronoun with a mortgage. The life that is living you is one life, and when it appears as you and appears as me, it is not split into two. It has simply taken on functions, like a single melody played on many instruments. We will take that further, but hold it now. The old self is a mental position, not a soul, not a selfhood. God is our invisible selfhood. We are the form and function. We are only two in function. Now, surrender. Does this mean annihilation? Does this mean your quirks must be sanded down and your colors bleached out? Oh, not at all. Not at all. Surrender is not the end of life. It is the end of the false claimant that says, this life is mine to manage. You will still cook supper, drive to work, laugh at the wrong moment, and fix it with a smile. You will still say yes and no, and sometimes you will change your mind. But the axis shifts. The owner becomes a steward. The controller becomes a listener. The sufferer becomes a witness to a presence that carries pain through and does not enthrone it. Decisions are made, but less from panic and more from peace. Boundaries exist, but not as armored walls, as the natural shape of wisdom. If you can feel that, just the edge of it, you can feel why the insurance contract can never usher in the kingdom. The policy was written by the claimant. When the claimant loosens its fist, the hand that remains is God's own hand as you're living. Deny thyself, yes, but understand what is denied. Not your humanity, not your function, not your laughter, not your love. Only the impostor that stamped mine on what can only ever be, I am. If I had a tumbler here, and I wish I did, we should pass one around the room. I would hold it up and ask you a few very simple questions. Where does the outside of this glass leave off, and where does the inside begin? Is there an outside glass that is one thing and an inside glass that is another? Or is there but glass, one substance, one being, performing two functions, containing and being contained, with no seam where one ends and the other starts? If I ask you to point to the line, you cannot do it. You can point to surfaces, you can name uses, but you cannot find a break in the glass itself. There is but glass. Now let us take that a step inward, because this is our object lesson for the kingdom. God is our invisible selfhood, and we are the visible form and function. Are there two, an invisible God self somewhere and a visible you over here? Or is there one life expressing as visibility and invisibility, one being in two functions? If I say, show me the boundary where God ceases and you commence, where will you point? At your shoulder, your breath, your name? Is identity a border we can photograph? Or is it a single life, a single being, appearing as that which is unseeable and that which is seeable? There is but God being. We are only two in function. Now press this a little, because this is where the old contract shows its absurdity. If there is but one, who is left to protect himself from God? Who is there to invite God in as if God were a neighbor we could host for tea and then show the door? Who is the guest and who is the house if the substance is one? You can almost hear the ego saying, "All right, God, you may use the living room, but the kitchen is mine." But if there is only glass, there is no private kitchen. The idea of ownership is the sticker we have glued on the tumbler, and it peels off in warm water. Does this mean you are absorbed like a drop in the ocean and never again laugh your own laugh? Oh, not at all. Not at all. Individuality is the way oneness plays. Distinction of function is not separation of being. The melody remains, the instrument remains, but we stop mistaking the instrument for the composer. We stop pretending the clarinet can protect the music. We let the music play, and we care for the instrument as part of the music's own wisdom. The obstacle, then, is made plain. The kingdom is not a possession for the separate self. It is not a treasure you can lock in your private chest and ensure with fervent prayers. The kingdom is the recognition of what already and always is. That there is but glass, but God, and this very life is that life expressing. You do not get oneness. You stop insisting on two-ness. You do not bring God to you or carry God with you. You awaken to the fact that where God is, you are, and there is no place to draw a line and post a guard. And so, when the impulse rises to fortify, to defend a private corner, to say, my life, my wisdom, my supply, hear the soft humor in it. Where in the glass will you write, mine, so it does not still be glass? Where will you stand to secure yourself against your own being? You cannot. You need not. The safety we have been seeking is not the safety of a guarded room. It is the safety of being the room itself. Presence as presence. The kingdom is realized as oneness, and oneness leaves no room for an I to be protected, only a life to be recognized and lived as what it is, indivisible. Now we must speak of the sea in which we have been swimming without noticing it. The sea of thought. By thought, I do not mean your cleverness alone. I mean everything that can be seen, heard, tasted, touched, smelled. Everything remembered, feared, anticipated. The rehearsals of yesterday and the forecasts of tomorrow. The labels we paste on people. The measurements we take of ourselves. The headlines that lean on our chest before breakfast. All of that is the sea of thought. It is the whole swirl of images and words and sensations by which the mind attempts to hold the world in a net. And watch where the old self lives, in that sea. It rehearses arguments there. If he says this, I will say that. It plans defenses there. I must not be caught without an answer. It scans for threats there. What if they do? What if they don't? It compares and grades and keeps score. Better than yesterday, worse than her, not as bright as him. It regrets and rewinds. Why did I? Why didn't I? It outlines outcomes with little blueprints. First this, then that, and God, please initial here. Do you see it? The protector lives by thinking, because it lives as a picture of a someone in a picture of a world trying to manage a picture of events. Now here is the gentle but hard truth. Thinking won't make this so. No conclusion about oneness will ever be the kingdom. The kingdom is not the brightest thought in the room. It is not a theory we like and therefore possess. The kingdom is an awareness that dawns when the sea of thought quiets. To arrive above the sea of thought is to arrive in divine consciousness. And above does not mean up there in the clouds. It means a different register of knowing, not reached by argument, not secured by syllogism, not proved by debate. It is recognized when the mental surf loses interest in breaking. Does this mean we throw the mind on the junk heap? Oh, not at all. Not at all. We are not against thought. We are only setting it in order. Use thought to add your columns, to fix the hinge, to plan the train, to write the letter. The mind is a good clerk and a poor king. Let it serve. Do not ask it to reveal God. That is the work of silence, of receptivity, of a listening for which we have no better word than stillness. What then are we to expect? An actual awareness, an actual feeling of God's presence. Not a trance, not fireworks. Often it is a subtle stirring, like the first wind that lifts the edge of a curtain. We sit, or we walk, or we wash the dish, and for a moment the commentary softens. The comparisons go off shift. The rehearsals forget their lines. And there is a sense, near, palpable, that life is here, whole, self-knowing, needing no help from us to be itself. That is the click. Not produced by analysis, revealed when analysis yields. Until we feel it stirring, we remain at the mercy of waves. When we feel it, even faintly, we discover another basis. And I will say it because it is the most practical sentence I know. That presence of God is the insurance policy. Not the contract the ego writes in fear, but the quiet fact that where God is, I am. And in that awareness, the need to protect begins to dissolve. So we learn to rise above the sea of thought, not by force, not by hating thought, but by loving the presence more than the waves, sitting long enough, simply enough, until the waters clear and what is always here is, at last, obvious. Let us bring this out of the clouds and into the kitchen, into the office, into the car. The sea of thought has waves, and these waves like to dress up. The costumes are simple and very convincing. One is called being right. You know the scene. The conversation falters, and something in us leans forward, not to love, not to listen, but to win. The sentences sharpen. We begin to quote facts, dates, footnotes, and if we have none, we can always quote our tone. The last word becomes a trophy, and we are polishing it while the other person is still speaking. Are we looking for truth, or are we securing the old self's position on the map? You can feel it when it happens, the heat in the chest, the stiffening in the jaw. There is a me here, and it must prevail. Another costume answers to the name justify. The smallest misunderstanding, and out comes the alibi machine. I only said that because... I only missed that because... I would have, except... We produce long, careful histories to prove we are not at fault, not small, not late, not unkind. And a cousin of that one is the fear of being misunderstood. We begin to write essays in our text messages and give speeches to people who asked for a sentence. We hire the court stenographer of the mind to record our innocence from every angle. Do you see what we are protecting? A picture of me that must not be dented. Then there is the hunger to be seen, which likes to masquerade as integrity. I just want to do what's right, we say. And then we take attendance to make sure the right people noticed that we did. We call it conscience, and perhaps part of it is. But watch closely. Is there a scan for applause? Is there a disappointment when goodness goes unposted? One can take a moral gym selfie without a camera. And of course, the spiritual wardrobe box. We can quote a teaching the way a lawyer quotes a statute. Oneness, brother, so stop confronting me. Boundaries, sister, so meet my demands. We can place prayer like a lever under a situation to pry it into our outline and then call it surrender. We can wield morality to feel superior to the neighbor whose yard is not as tidy as our doctrine. We even grow very holy about our grievances. We feed them, groom them, walk them around the block, introduce them to friends. This is my hurt. She's purebred. If someone suggests letting the leash drop, we clutch it closer. Our problems become pets. Our pets become identities. Now, oh, not at all. Not at all does this mean we must be doormats, or that rightness and clarity and boundaries and prayer are discarded. Wisdom says no when no is love. Integrity acts without an audience. Prayer listens without a plan. But let us not miss the cost when the costume is worn for protection. Every surge to be right at the expense of relationship, every reflex to justify rather than to understand, every campaign to be seen, every deployment of teaching as a shield, each one quietly redraws the world as me versus life, me versus you, me versus God. That redraw is separation in action, and separation is the only veil over the kingdom. If you can feel that, you can begin to smile at it when it rises. You can notice the heat and choose coolness. You can feel the hand reach for the leash of a grievance and let the fingers soften. You can hear the mind riffling for a quotation and choose silence. This is not self-hatred. It is self-honesty. It is the dissolving of a private border where no true border exists. And in the very space where we decline to protect the picture, something else is free to appear. The quiet presence we spoke of, a different basis. We do not improve the old self, we decline to costume it. Then, without trumpet or argument, the glass is simply glass again, and the need to defend subsides like a wave that forgot why it was breaking. And that brings us, simply and directly, to prayer. I find myself smiling here and asking, with a little irony, what exactly am I doing when I try to pray an infinite down into my plan? Am I hoping to instruct omniscience? To influence omnipotence? To persuade love to become a valet for a frightened picture of me? You need a sense of humor, because if we could tape our petitionary prayers and play them back without the pious music, we might hear ourselves outlining to God as if heaven were a service counter. Hello, yes, I'll have a little safety, 2 orders of approval, and rush the delivery. Now, oh, not at all. Not at all do I say needs are unreal or that aching hearts should be ignored. We are not made cruel by truth. But let us place needs in their right order. If God is all, if presence is life itself, what could be missing from God that we must import by pleading? The error is not hunger. The error is asking for effects while neglecting source. It is like standing in the shade with a sweater and praying for warmth to arrive separate from the sun. Does that make sense? You do not pray for warmth. You step into sunshine. Automatically, without bargaining, without a memo, the warmth and the tan appear. They are not favors. They are the nature of the sun experienced. So the prayer turned right side up is not, give me, not, fix this, not, bless my outline. It is one prayer, one aim, a deeper awareness of God's presence. Seek me only. Seek me only. Bring yourself, your attention, your quiet, your love into the presence. and let the added things be added. The prayer now becomes the realization that where God is, I am, and where I am, God is. For there is but one life in two functions. But what about the rent? What about the diagnosis? What about the child? I hear it and I honor it. Prayer as realization is not indifference. It is confidence in order. First the sun, then the warmth. First presence, then the forms it knows how to arrange. In realization, fear relaxes, clarity appears, guide, and as we practice, a wonderful reversal occurs. We cease auditioning words to move God. We allow God to move us. We stop sending instructions. We become an opening. We are quiet long enough, lovingly enough, until protection is outshone by assurance. Now we must take hold of a phrase that, I know, has frightened many gentle hearts. Deny thyself. At first hearing it, sounds like a sentence to hard living in gray skies. It is not. Oh, not at all. Not at all. It is not a call to despise your person, to scold your humanity, or to sand down your color until you pass unnoticed. It is not an order to stop laughing, to stop choosing dinner, or to stop calling a friend. Deny thyself does not mean deny your worth. It means deny a claimant that never was your worth. It means deny the private author who sits at the desk inside your chest, writing, my life, my will, my outcome, across the ledger of God. Make it plain. What dies here is not you. What dies is authorship. The belief that there is a separate power called me doing the living, doing the thinking, doing the achieving, doing the protecting. What dies is the imposter who keeps two sets of books, one labeled God for Sundays and one labeled mine for Mondays. What lives is the Christ life, the life that is God expressed as your very being. I live, yet not I. Christ liveth my life. Do you see? Individuality remains. The thief of authorship is turned out of the office. The music plays more purely when the instrument stops pretending to be the composer. Let us use the clear knife of negation so the outline is exact. There is no my supply to guard. There is God appearing as supply in the forms needed this day. There is no my wisdom to manufacture or defend. There is God's knowing as the clarity of this moment. There is no my health to clutch at with fear. There is God's life being life in and as this body temple. There is no my reputation to polish at midnight. There is God's light, and light needs no polish. There is no my safety to contract around. There is God's presence, and presence is safety. There is no my prayer to perfect. There is God's prayer praying itself as our very stillness. Each my is the sticker on the glass, and with a little warm water of realization, it lifts. But will I become passive? Will I just float? No, no. The life that lives acts. It decides. It says yes and it says no, and often with greater precision and swifter mercy than the anxious author ever could. Denying the false I is not self-hatred. It is the end of separation and the beginning of freedom. It doesn't make you a victim of fate. It makes you transparent to source. The hands still cook and write and mend and sign. Only now the motive is not self-creation, but self-revelation. We are not manufacturing a better me. we are letting God be God without our edits. And here's the promise tucked right inside the surrender. The kingdom is not found by an improved ego, an ego with cleaner teeth and holier vowels. The kingdom is revealed as the ego yields and divine selfhood stands unobstructed. You will feel it as relief, like putting down a bag of bricks you forgot you were carrying. You will notice the sea of thought quiet because the lifeguard who kept blowing the whistle has gone off duty. You will meet your own face and recognize it not as a proprietor, but as a passageway. Deny thyself, die daily to the private author, and watch what remains. A life so intimate with God that the sentence, "Where God is, I am," is no longer a statement you make. It is the way you breathe. Seek me only, and the old claimant, finding no contract to sign, quietly leaves the room. Then freedom is not a dream or a prize. It is the natural light of a room where no one is trying to be the sun. Now let us make this very simple and very practical. A little 7-day experiment. Not a vow, not a penance, not a contest to see who can be holiest by Tuesday. An experiment. For 7 days, watch the words I and my. Not to repress them, oh, not at all, not at all. Merely to reveal how often we are enthroning a private center without noticing it. Each time you are about to say I or my, pause, just a beat, and ask, is this authorship or is this function? If it is simple function, I'll be there at 3. My shoes are by the door. Speak naturally and go on. But if there is heat in it, I must be understood. My way, my injury, my credit. Feel the temperature and let the pause lengthen into a breath. That breath is not empty. It is an opening where presence can be felt. Alongside that, carry a tiny bell in your pocket. Not a metal one, a word. Bubble. It's a funny sound. Roll it around in your mouth. Bubble. For 7 days, whenever you feel the surge to protect, prove, or possess, name it. That is a bubble. Then pause. The bubble of being right. The sentence is forming with footnotes and exhibits. The jaw is setting. Bubble. The bubble of being admired. The post is composed in your mind and you are counting invisible hearts. Bubble. The bubble of controlling timelines. The calendar is a battlefield. Your shoulders are generals. Bubble. The bubble of needing an apology. You are polishing your closing argument to collect a debt of sorrow. Bubble. Each time you name it, you interrupt the reflex to enthrone the old self. Not a war, a wink. Not a suppression, a seeing. Let me give you the feel of it in daily scenes. A colleague misstates a detail in the meeting, and the hand inside you shoots up, not to help, but to correct. Bull. One breath. In that breath ask, is love served by this correction now, or is the I taking the microphone? Sometimes you will still speak, only now without the sword. You open your banking app and discover a delay. The stomach tightens, the mind begins to outline 10 emails. Bull. One breath. Seek me only. In the space, a sane next step appears, perhaps the same email, but without fear as the author. A friend forgets to acknowledge your effort. The narrative begins. After all I have done. Bull. One breath. Listen. Sometimes the apology you wanted turns into the freedom not to need it at all. Do not try to be morally perfect for 7 days. That would only dress the I in angel clothes. The aim is an opening. Each pause is a small door through which the sea of thought can fall quiet for a second, and the click of presence can be felt. Many small clicks become a steadier awareness. You will notice that some bibbles dissolve at the door. Others come back with new hats. Smile. Name them again. Pause again. Let the clerk of the mind do its work, but keep the throne empty until the true king is felt. And in that felt presence, protection loses its job, proving forgets its lines, and possession melts because where will you write mine that is not already God? 7 days. Watch I and my. Name the Bibbles. Breathe. Seek me only. And see if a quiet new basis does not begin, gently, to take the field. When the click comes, it is rarely a parade. It is more like a room in which a window has been opened and nobody saw who did it. The air changes. The pressure drops. There is less noise. Not out there, but in here. The urge to manage every possibility loosens its grip as if the fingers had remembered they were not clamps. You find yourself breathing as one who is carried by a deeper order. And the oddest thing happens. The same world looks less crowded. It is not fireworks. It is an inner settling. An ease that does not have to announce itself because it is the announcement. Presence felt. Decisions, then, do not become dramatic. They become simple. The mind still lays out the figures on the table. The clerk does its work. But the king is not panic. The king is quiet. A yes appears without a speech. A no is clean and does not come with an apology letter tucked to its back. You stop polling the world for permission. Guidance is clearer because fear is quieter. And when fear is quieter, the next right thing has room to step forward. The old habit of outlining 5 plans and 3 backups begins to feel like overpacking for a day trip. You still bring a lunch. You stop bringing the attic. In relationships, the change is almost tender. Resentments that were so convincingly narrated begin to lose their taste. The speeches you used to rehearse in the shower forget their opening lines. You notice that listening has found you, and listening does half the healing before any words are chosen. Correction, when it comes, leaves its sword in the closet. Boundaries stop looking like walls and start feeling like the shape love takes when it says no. You do not become sentimental. You become sane. The old debts you were collecting, interest compounded monthly, quietly move to the forgives column, and you discover you are wealthier for it. In supply, the shift is from clutching to right use. You still work, plan, build, create. Oh, not at all. Not at all do we abandon the tools of living. We simply stop making idols of them. Money becomes a pencil with which God writes this day's line instead of a shrine at which we kneel. The calendar, which had been a battlefield, remembers it is a servant. Health choices come with clarity unclouded by dread. Effects return to their rightful place as instruments of a life already whole. First the sun, then the warmth. First presence, then all that attends it. That presence of God is the insurance policy, not because it bends events to our outline, but because it reveals a basis of being in which we are not separate from the source of every right form. Please hear this. It is not reserved for the rare saint or the monk in the high places. This belongs in the bakery, in the clinic, on the subway, at the kitchen sink. What changes is not God. What changes is awareness. The same sun shines for all. The difference is whether we are turned toward it. The click is not a graduation. It is a threshold. It comes, sometimes faint as a moth's wing, and then it comes again, steadier, as we learn to rise above the sea of thought and abide there more often. Where God is, I am. And little by little that sentence stops being a sentence and becomes the atmosphere. Do not imagine the click gives the ego a better set of controls. No, no. It takes the controls from the ego and shows that life is not a machine to be driven, but a presence to be lived. We become transparent enough that action moves through without the drag of self-importance. On a Tuesday night, that may mean you do not send the midnight email written by fear. You sleep, you wake, and the morning finds the right words in a tone you trust. It may mean you pick up the phone you have been afraid to pick up, and the conversation you dreaded arrives already half-healed. It may mean the bill is still due on Friday, and yet the steps you take are clean. The help you ask for is honest, and the provision appears, not as magic, but as the natural order of a life not divided against itself. So let the quick come as it will. Seek me only. Turn again and again until the inner settling is familiar. From there, decisions are guided from within. Relationships are relieved of their old contracts, and supply is righted as use instead of worship. And if now and then the sea of thought grows noisy, we know the way. Be still. Love the presence more than the waves, and the window opens. Without fanfare, the room fills with air, and we are home. Let me say it again, softly now, because this is the hinge on which the door turns. You cannot carry the old self into the kingdom. The gate is not narrow because God is stingy. It is narrow because oneness has no room for two centers. The kingdom is not an addition to the identity we have been polishing. It is the dissolving of the belief that there was a private owner at all. We have tried to make a compromise, a little me with God's help. A better me, a safer me, a me with spiritual vitamins. But oneness does not negotiate. It does not decorate the mask. It reveals the face. It is not a brighter outline around I. It is the end of the outline. I can hear the question that rises very humanly. If I stop protecting myself, what happens to me? Oh, not at all. Not at all does this mean you disappear into a puddle. What is real in you is kept by God because it is God. Your life, your love, your capacity to give and to receive, your laughter, your very sparkle. What is false, fear's authorship, vanity's claims, grievance's ledger, cannot be kept because it never was your safety. Think of the glass with its label. When the sticker is peeled away, nothing is lost but the glue. What remains is true, clear, usable. Think of the sun. When you leave the shade for the light, you do not lose yourself. You lose the chill and find your color. The presence of God is the insurance policy. Not the contract the ego writes, but the assurance that the real of you cannot be harmed or diminished by love's appearing. Surrender, then, is not passivity. It is the end of egoic struggle. The clerk still tallies the figures. The letter still gets written. The boundary still says no when no is love. But the fretting author is off the throne. Actions become cleaner because they are not propelled by fear. They become kinder because they are not staged for applause. They become more effective because they arise from the same presence that knows the way through without our panic. You will find that courage, oddly, increases. You speak when speaking serves truth. You are silent when silence serves love. You ask for help without humiliation. You offer help without superiority. This is not floating. This is walking on solid ground at last. So let this settle in your heart. The kingdom is not reached by self-protection refined. No, no. It is realized when the old self is no longer the center, when the sea of thought has lost its power to crown a private king, when we rise above its waves long enough to feel the click and abide there. We do not need more ideas now. We need that moment above thought in which the teaching ceases to be sentences and becomes atmosphere. In a few minutes, let us be still. Let us love the presence more than the waves, until the window opens of itself and what is always here is at last obvious. Seek me only, and see that nothing true is taken and everything real is given. Now let us be still a few minutes. Let the day loosen its grip. Let the storylines return to their shelves for a while. The appointments, the names, even the good works waiting for you. They know the way back. Let the body sit as it will, not stiff, not slumped, comfortable enough to forget itself. We are not going anywhere. We are letting going somewhere take a rest. We are laying down the outline, the plans, the improvements we would make to ourselves and to God. No orders to the infinite today, no bargaining. Just a gentle turning. Release the need to get something from God. Release even the thought of how you will describe this moment later. There is no report due. Merely a quiet willingness to be here without management. If a sentence tries to start, "I will now realize," smile and let the sentence go unfinished. If a question rises, "Am I doing it right?" let even that be met with kindness and dissolve. We are not trying to think our way into the kingdom. We are resting until thought remembers it can be still. Now, place the attention softly on the simple fact of being. Not on a picture of God, not on an idea about God, but on the felt fact that life is here. Here. The breath may come to your notice and then wander away. Let it. The sounds in the room are permitted to be themselves. Let them pass like birds that don't need your passport stamp. If a wave of thought rises, do not fight the sea. Rise above the sea of thought by not entering it. Be the listening, the awareness, the open window. Just this. Quiet, available, unforced. If the click comes, it comes. If it does not, it does not. We are not manufacturing God. We are consenting to what already is. Feel how, as self-protection softens, something steady becomes obvious. Not dramatic, not loud, present. The need to name it can rest. The need to own it can rest. You are not a beggar here. You are not a manager. Where God is, I am. And in this stillness, the sentence stops reaching and begins to be true as atmosphere. This is prayer. Realization. Seek me only. Let us sit like this a few moments longer. Then, as you lift your eyes, carry nothing. Let the room be the same and your basis be different. Nothing is forced. The kingdom is not a project. It is uncovered when we cease protecting the old self. And here is our quiet charge. Each morning, before the day recruits you, make this contact. Each evening, before sleep inherits you, return to it. Never start or end the day without turning toward presence. Seek me only, and let life be added in its right order. Above the sea of thought, we find that what is real has been here all along. Let it be.